everyone, and welcome to the Las Vegas Sports Services NBA Weekly Report. I'm John Cranton in Las Vegas, joined by Jeff Saad, who runs Las Vegas Sports Services. Going to take a look at the NBA Finals. We've got some free picks and some betting trends and angles to look at. But first, Jeff, you've been red hot in both basketball and baseball, a 59-29 baseball run, as well as, 2 weeks ago you hit your NBA playoff total of the year, and then this week your NBA playoff game of the year. How can folks get aboard for a special?
Yes, since May 4th, it's 51-29 in baseball. In the NBA, I'm on a 9-4 run. I won my NBA playoff game of the year, Game 5, when the Heat beat the Pacers by 11. My consensus baseball players on a 7-2 run. Everything's going great at LVSS. Everyone's making a lot of money. And I'm going to give you a chance to get on board. You're going to get 10 days for $10, $1 a day, NBA and baseball. And that will include my baseball total of the month. You're going to get 10 days, $10. Just call LVSS at 1-866-575-8916, 1-866-575-8916.
All right, before we get into the NBA Finals matchup, let's take a look at some handicapping, situational handicapping. And that was after Game 4 of that Heat-Pacers series. You sent me an email right after the game ended, and you said, boy, I like Miami Heat a lot for Game 5 coming home. I'm probably going to make that my NBA playoff game of the year, which you did, and it was a nice cover. What was it specifically that you were looking at? I'm going to guess that it had something to do with situations and the fact that, their star player, LeBron, had fouled out and Miami's so good in a bounce-back spot. Is that what was taking place with you?
Yeah, when you have a game of the year, you want everything to come together, and that's what happened here. We had a home team. It was 2-2 series. A home team in Game 5 is always a good pick in that situation. Plus, you had the Heat coming off a loss. They rarely lose 2 games in a row. And, of course, it was essentially a must-win situation for the Heat. And all those things put together, I thought it was a great pick. It was closer than I thought. I wish it wasn't. I wish it was easier, but it was still a win. And that's the way it works. Playoff games of the year. You want everything to come together. That's what happened in Game 5. That's why I made it my playoff game of the year, John.
Well, it certainly wasn't close in that third quarter as Miami went absolutely crazy. Okay, let's take a look at the NBA Finals. Unusual. First of all, we got the Spurs back here. I mean, we haven't seen them as good as they've been. We haven't seen them in a final since 2007. That was when they swept LeBron James and the Cleveland Cavaliers. They're on a terrific run, 10-4 against the spread coming into the finals. On the other hand, it's a 10-day layoff. So how do you assess the Spurs coming into the finals with such a long layoff? Do they have the depth and the talent to possibly win another title?
Yeah, anytime you have Greg Popovich coaching and the big three, Duncan, Ginobili, and Parker, you got a chance to win it all. The long layoffs probably won't affect them as much as normal. It might even be good for them because they have a lot of players that are getting up there in age, and they have experience in this situation. So the long layoff probably won't hurt them too much, and not as much as the Heat, who didn't play well in their first games after a long layoff. The Spurs, they have all this experience. They have a great bench, too. They have Green, Jackson, Bonner, Splitter, Blair, and Neo. They have great tradition. They've won 50 more games in 14 straight seasons. So the Spurs definitely have a 50-50 chance of winning the finals, I would say, especially the way we're looking at the way the Heat and Pacers are going. The Spurs, everything looks good for them right now. So we'll have to wait and see in that one, John.
Yeah, one thing to keep in mind as far as the long layoff for the NBA Finals, this is highly unusual, but the Spurs do have one example of that, and that was in the first round to the second round of the playoffs. On April 28th, they beat the LA Lakers to finish that sweep in a blowout game. Then they didn't play again until May 6th, so that was an 8-day layoff comparable to what we're seeing right now. And that ended up being Game 1 against the Golden State Warriors. They were home. They were a big favorite of 8 or 9 points, and yet they played a terrible game. Were fortunate to force double overtime and come back and win, but they weren't even close to covering that game. It ended up being 129-127 squeaker, so they looked a little bit rusty, particularly on the defensive end, last time they had a long layoff like this. Keep that in mind. One thing I like about this Spurs team, though, is the bench. I mean, a team like the Miami Heat has had an advantage all season long and in this playoffs with that bench. They have an exceptional bench. They have used that as an edge against every team they played in the postseason However, this is a different situation. San Antonio, I like their bench a lot. They have the big guys up front, which can give a team like Miami trouble with Splitter and Duncan. And they have a lot of high energy guys like Neal and Danny Green and Steven Jackson coming in. So it's going to be fascinating. I would give an edge to the Spurs, something that Indiana hasn't seen. Another thing is defense. This Spurs team slipped a little bit defensively a year ago, which we would have to attribute to old age, but they really improved significantly this season. They jumped up to 9th in field goal shooting defense and a top 10 team in points allowed. And keep in mind that when they play the Eastern Conference, the Spurs are 27-9-1 against the spread. Okay, Jeff, Miami Heat, champions of the East as we thought they were. How do they match up against the old men of San Antonio?
Well, the big problem will be here at guard. Tony Parker is playing phenomenal, and Dwayne Wade has a bad knee, and it's really affected especially his shooting. It's really affected his shooting. So that could be a big problem there for the Heat. Right now, it looks like LeBron James, as he said in a press conference, he's going back to his Cleveland days. He's pretty much taken over the team and willing his team to win because the other guys aren't. The other two of the big three aren't doing that well. Chris Bosh is having a lot of problems right now. He's going to have to pick it up. What saved him last night, or Thursday night, not only was Jim, but it was Udonis Haslem. He's the one that really saved the game for him there. The combination of him and James was too much for the Pacers. But they're going to have to get more contributions from other people if they want to win the whole thing, John.
Yeah, when you take a look at the head-to-head matchups between the best teams in the East and the Spurs, you really can't draw much into it. I mean, the two games against Miami, the players, the star players, didn't even play back on November 29th. That was the game the Spurs lost at Miami, 105-103. But they were a 13-point underdog, and that's because it was their fourth game in 5 nights, and you probably remember the controversy where Greg Popovich rested his star players, and even the bench nearly won the game. And the Spurs surprisingly won the rebounding battle against Miami that day without Duncan, 45-37. That rebounding is a weakness that we've seen with Miami in these playoffs. And then the rematch at the end of March, Miami won at San Antonio 88-86. Now the Spurs were the huge favorite of 9, and that's because Miami decided to rest LeBron and Wade and Mario Chalmers because they had injuries. So we haven't seen these two teams face each other with the full contingent of players. So it's going to be, you can kind of throw out the regular season. Just for comparison, when the Spurs played the Pacers, it was relatively one-sided. The Spurs won at home 101-79, and the significance there was the bench, which we talked about earlier, 57-35 scoring with the San Antonio bench. Indiana got shut down by the Spurs defense, 34%. And then the rematch was at Indiana, and that was a 104-97 San Antonio win. They again played an exceptional game. And what stood out is that Roy Hibbert has really been rendered, or was rendered, meaningless in those two meetings. He was only 1 of 7 shooting in the first game, and then 5 of 18 shooting with 10 points and 11 boards. So Hibbert played so good against Miami at times, but this is a San Antonio team that is a little bit different than Miami, has the big bodies that they could throw at them. That could be a huge edge for them. Okay, let's get into some free picks coming up. Jeff, we got some hockey this weekend. You see anything that stands out?
Yeah, it's the Boston Bruins, the Pittsburgh Penguins, game 1. I'm taking the game to go over the total. The Penguins are on a 7-3 run to the over, and the last 9 games playing on 3 more days rest, 7-2 to the over. So I'll take the Bruins, Penguins over the total in game 1.
Okay, I'm going to go hockey, too. It'll be the Kings Blackhawks game 1 on Saturday. Going to go under the total. The last 55 meetings between these teams, 33-15-7 under the total. You got 2 dominant defensive teams, 2 outstanding goaltenders. And the last 28 meetings in Chicago, 19-6-3 under the total. Your free play Saturday, Kings Blackhawks, game 1 under the total. All right, thanks for joining us, everyone. Jeff Saad and I will be back next week from another NBA report. And make sure you check out our college and pro football previews right here at jimfice.tv. Good luck, everyone.